Can anybody just confirm if there is sound and if the sound is moving smoothly? Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight, inshallah, we continue on with our class from the kitab known as Us Sunan. Tonight, we are touching on a very famous topic. It's something that every one of us can do. It takes nothing from a person to do it, and there are great rewards in doing so. We are here on this particular page, which is page 71, as you can see here. It is Babu Sunniyyah of Siwaak, the chapter that using the Miswaak is Sunnah. So we will do, like we do every time, the ahadith and the rulings that we derive from it. So here is our 13th hadith as far as the kitab is concerned, even though we have done certain ahadith in the sub-chapters, which was ahadith, even though it was not numbered as such. So we've done more than 13, but as far as the book itself is concerned, officially we have done 12, and this will be our 13th hadith. So he says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك مع كل وضوء. Hazrat Abu Huraira رضي الله عنه narrates that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, were it not for the fact that that it would be difficult upon my ummah, then لأمرتهم بالسواك, I would have commanded them to use the miswak مع كل وضوء, at the time of making every wudu. أخرجه مالك وأحمد والنسائي وصححه ابن خزيمة وذكره البخاري تعليقا كذا في بلوغ المرام. It's reported by Imam Malik, by Imam Ahmad, by Imam Nasai. It's graded as being authentic by Imam Ibn Khuzayma. It's mentioned by Imam Bukhari rahimahullah in a mu'allaq form. In other words, he quoted it more like a chapter heading, and which is how he often quotes his ta'liqat, and not as a hadith as far as his book is concerned. So this is mentioned by Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah in his kitab known as Bulugh al-Maram. So many people may have come across the hadith لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك عند كل صلاة. I would have commanded them to use the siwak at the time of every salah. So there are two different hadith. That is that one, and this one here is at the time of every wudu. And I'll read a few more of the ahadith before coming back to this point and linking the two up as far as the madhab is concerned. So moving on, 14th hadith. عن زيد بن خالد الجهني رضي الله عنه قال ما كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يخرج من بيته لشيء من الصلوات حتى يستاك. رواه الطبراني بإسناد لا بأس به كذا في الترغيب وفي مجمع الزوائد ورجاله موثقون. Imam Hazrat Zayd ibn Khalid al-Juhani radiyallahu anhu, he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam never used to leave his house for any of the salahs حتى يستاك, until he had used the siwak. Imam al-Tabarani rahimahullah reports this hadith with a sanad la ba'asa bihi, there's no harm in it. In other words, it means it's an authentic, reliable chain. It's mentioned in Majma'u al-Zawaid of Imam al-Haythami rahimahullah that rijaluhu muwaththaqun, the narrators are all thiqa, they're all trustworthy and reliable. In other words, this is an authentic hadith. Moving on to the next hadith. عن علي رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك مع كل وضوء. رواه الطبراني في الأوسط وفيه ابن إسحاق وهو ثقة مدلس وقد صرح بالتحديث وإسناده حسن. Hazrat Ali radiyallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, same hadith as above, that were it not for the fact that it would be made difficult upon my ummah, then I would have commanded them to use the miswak with every wudu. Imam al-Tabarani rahimahullah reports this hadith in Al-Mu'jam al-Awsat, and in the chain of narration is a narrator by the name of Ibn Ishaq. He's a reliable person, but he is a mudallis. Now, what is a mudallis? A mudallis is a term in Mustalah al-Hadith that is used with regards to a narrator where, it's like he's he almost tries to hide something. I'll give you an example. People do tadlis in modern times without even realizing that what they are doing is tadlis. So tadlis is when, let's say, for example, you narrate it. People do it all the time, whole time. You narrate that, for example, let's say you say that think of a person you know. Okay, let's say maybe Mufti Ibrahim Desai said that it's okay for you to eat calamari. For example, let's assume a person made a statement like this here. Where did he get this from? Did you hear Mufti Ibrahim Desai say so? No, but you heard it from uh, some YouTube influencer, and that person quoted from Mufti Ibrahim Desai. But now you quoted from Mufti Ibrahim Desai as though you heard it from him, even though in reality you did not hear it from him. So you don't say I heard it from him, but you make it seem you're living in Durban. Mufti Ibrahim decides in Durban, you make it appear to the mind of the person hearing you that you heard it from him, even though in reality you did not do so. So this action is known as tadlis. A person who does this is known as a mudallis. If you wanted to read or hear more, at least more about a mudallis, you can go to YouTube, go to the Ummah radio channel, go to the playlist known as Mustalah al-Hadith over there. One of the title headings you'll see there with regards to Tadlis and Mudallis, and inshallah you'll get a bit more information with regards to it if you want a bit more. But anyway, so this action is known as Tadlis, and it is if a person does Tadlis, that puts his narrations in question, because now we don't know what's going on. The man is like he's hiding something and trying to brush it under the carpet. So muhaddithin grade this as being a weakness. However, there's one way for a mudallis to be in a chain of narration and yet the narration being reliable, and that is when the mudallis explicitly say, I heard from so and so. So Malana Zafar Ahmad, at least Imam al-Haythami rahimahullah in Majma' al-Zabail, he said that this Ibn Ishaq, this mudallis, he had made tasrih, he had explicitly stated that who he heard it from. As a result, there's nobody being skipped out. He's not trying to hide anything. He openly stated who he heard it from. Therefore, this tadlis falls away from this chain of narration and it becomes authentic once more. So anyway, we have done this hadith previously, that I would have commanded my ummah to make to use of the miswak at the time of every wudu. One more hadith number 16. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك مع الوضوء عند كل صلاة. رواه ابن حبان في صحيحه. Aisha radiallahu anha narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, were it not for the fact that I feared making difficult upon my ummah. Now you may have heard me narrate this hadith 3 times, the same portion, but translated it slightly different each time, and that is because these are the various ways that ulama have translated it. It's 6 or half a dozen at the end of the day. That lawla an ashuqa ala ummati, were it not that it would have been made difficult upon my ummah, or that I fear it would be made difficult upon my ummah, la amartuhum bi siwaki ma'al wudu'i, I would have commanded them to use the siwak with their wudu at the inda kulli salatin, at the time of every salah. This hadith is reported by Imam Ibn Hibban rahimahullah in his Sahih. Okay, I think I'll stop on this point here and then now link up the ahadith which have been quoted above. So we've got here now the hadith I made mention of, which is ma'a kulli wudu'in, the making use of the siwak at the time of making every wudu. I made mention of the hadith inda kulli salatin, at the time of every salah. And this hadith links the two, which is making wudu at the time of every salah. In other words, when you are going to perform salah and you make that wudu, that is when you should use the siwak. So the ahadith get linked from the point, and Malana Zafar Ahmad rahimahullah, he draws a point over here where he says that it's not that you are to make the siwak at the time of making your salah. Rather, the time that it's supposed to be made is at the time when you are making wudu. Now, I don't exactly agree with this conclusion that Maulana Zafar rahimahullah has reached, because what he's saying, he said it's tahsili hasil, to use the fiqhi term, which is that, you doing something which has already been, it serves no purpose, it's pointless. You now just made wudu and you use the siwak. Now you come and you perform salah, and before you start your salah, you use the siwak again. Why are you using it? Your mouth is already clean. So what's the point now? It's futile. That's what he's basically trying to say. So that's why he say that the hadith which says using the siwak at the time of salah is to be understood in the context of using the siwak at the time of wudu for that salah, not at the time of before you stand and perform your salah. But what I disagree with in this regard is that many times people perform salah with a wudu that they've had for multiple salahs. People don't make a wudu for every salah. As a result, one of the purposes of making your using the siwak is to clean your mouth so that it smells fresh and stuff of the sort. Now you've made your wudu fajr time in the morning and you use the siwak, well and good. So fajr you performed with you perform your fajr salah عند كل وضوء ومع كل وضوء, at least you made your siwak and your salah, so they correspond and link to one another. Now 7 hours passes by, now comes the time of dhuhr. You're not making a new wudu, your wudu has not broken, so you're keeping it, whether it be for the fact that you are not making a extra wudu, because this is just something, if you wanted to refresh your wudu, you could do so. If you didn't want to, it's not a problem, your wudu is still valid. So anyway, now you come and you're not repeating your wudu, now you come straight to the salah. So this is a point. Now your mouth, for example, maybe you had not used the siwak the whole morning. Let's say, for example, you are fasting. So obviously you've got that fasting smell in your mouth. So now you use the siwak to clean your mouth at the time of performing your salah. So this is what I would say, how we can link the two ahadith, or at least all three of these ahadith, and we will accept the statement of Maulana Zafar rahimahullah, that yes, when you are performing a wudu for a particular salah and you have already used your siwak in wudu, then you don't use it again by the time when you come to your musalla. But if you had not made a wudu especially for that salah, or you forgot to use the siwak in wudu, then in that case, when you come to your musalla, you will use the siwak and you will still get that reward which is being referred to in the hadith. That's with regards to that point. Now, there's one additional point before we move on any further, which is the moving beyond the point of the text of the book that we have been doing above, which is now a chapter with regards to using the finger to use as a miswak. So because not everybody necessarily has a miswak. Sometimes you may be out, sometimes you may have forgotten it, sometimes you can't find your miswak. The time of wudu is here, and now you're making wudu and it's like, where's my miswak? Now what do you do in a situation like this here? So in this situation over here, he says we can take this hadith is حديث يجزئ من السواك الأصابع، رواه ابن عدي والدارقطني والبيهقي من حديث عبد الله بن المثنى عن النضر بن أنس عن أنس رضي الله عنه، أي مرفوعا، وفي إسناده نظر. وقال الضياء المقدسي لا أرى بسنده بأسا، إلى أن قال صاحب التلخيص وأصح من ذلك ما رواه أحمد في مسنده من حديث علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه أنه دعا بكوز من ماء فغسل وجهه وكفيه ثلاثا وتمضمض فأدخل بعض أصابعه في فيه الحديث وفي آخره هذا وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He says that you can use a finger in place of a miswak when you don't have a miswak. Obviously, if you got your miswak in front of you, you don't use your finger. It's like saying, I've got water, but I'm making tayammum. So the finger comes in the event where you've forgotten your miswak. It don't mean now let's say, for example, you here presently in your place where you're making your wudu, now you remember, oh, in my car is my siwak. Okay, wait, let me go back to my car. No, you can, then in that case, it's as though you don't have him with you, so you make your wudu as is. if you have sufficient time and you don't mind going and getting it, it's not a problem. But you don't let the salah or in the masjid begin while you're running back to your car to get your siwak, and then you miss a rak'ah. In this situation, you use your finger, and that will count as your miswak. So anyway, he's mention of this narration, which comes from Hadrat Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu. But he says, in the chain of narration, there's some nazar, there's some bit of a weakness over there. But Hafiz al-Diya al-Maqdisi rahimahullah, he said, لا أرى بسنده بأسا. He graded this chain of narration as being reliable. So therefore, he says, but anyway, he goes further. He says, صاحب التلخيص. Who is the author of التلخيص? It is تلخيص الحبير of Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah. So Imam Ibn Hajar said, وأصح من ذلك. There's an even more authentic narration than this, which is the one that Imam Ahmad rahimahullah reports in his Musnad from the hadith of Hadrat Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu, that he called for a container of water and he washed his face and his hands 3 times and he rinsed his mouth. فأدخل بعض أصابعه. He put one of his fingers in his فيه is another name. Fam means mouth and fi also means mouth. So فيه, he put one of his fingers in his mouth. This word fihi you may come across in that hadith, that a person gets reward for everything, even so much for that food which he puts fihi imraati, in the mouth of his wife. So anyway, he put one of his fingers in his mouth and he cleaned his teeth in this manner. Not a siwak, he used his finger. And in the end of the hadith, after doing this, Hadrat Ali radiyallahu anhu said, هذا وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is the wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So therefore, this was Hadrat Ali radiyallahu anhu doing this action and saying that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had done it. Ergo, it is from the sunnah that if you don't have a siwak, you use your finger in its stead. Okay, so we're going to skip the rest of the arguments and debates and in between that goes on from this point here. Let's go back to our hadith itself. So we move on now to hadith number 17. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها مرفوعا السواك مطهرة للفم مرضاة للرب. Hadrat Aisha radiallahu anha reports marfu'an. Marfu'an is another mustalah al-hadith term. It means that she is narrating this from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That is what marfu'an means. So even though it's not explicitly stated over here, but we know this hadith is a well-known hadith. So Hadrat Aisha radiallahu anha narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, as-siwaku mataharatun lil-fam. The miswak is a purifier for the mouth. Mardatun lil-rab. It is a means of pleasing Allah. So by a person using the siwak, you get the Okay, question over here. A plastic toothbrush does not suffice as a miswak or as a finger in the event that the miswak is finished. Very good question, and it's something I should have mentioned earlier. We'll touch on it shortly in a bit as well. So a plastic toothbrush does not suffice as a miswak. And Okay, firstly, let me take a step back and explain. You have something which is known as the Sunnah of the Siwaak, and then you have the Sunniyyah to Siwaak. Or let me put it this way, the Sunniyyah to Siwaak and the Miswaak. If you draw a distinction between the two. One is the act of cleaning the mouth and the teeth, and one is the usage of the toothstick itself. When you draw the line of distinction between the two, it becomes a little bit clearer. So when we talk about the miswak, then the miswak itself is made out of wood. And specifically, as we'll come along later on and see the hadith, you use it from the Araak tree. Araak, you may see it in Urdu and things like this. You know, it's the most common miswak that you'll find in any of the shops. That you may find the name on it written in the Urdu name Peelu and stuff like this here, but it's the Araak tree. That's the actual Arabic name. This is the best of the siwak that the person can use. Other types that the person gets the siwak made from is now from the olive tree and stuff like this here. So there are different trees that it can be made from, but the best is the Araak. This is the Sunnah tree that the miswak is taken from. So which shows, like I said, we'll come to the hadith shortly, which shows that it's not just, let me go to my nearest branch, and just break a twig off and use that as a siwak. No, there is you get the reward on account of the siwak itself, the miswak itself. That's the first point. So then That is in its place. And the second thing was the Sunniyah to Siwaak. The Sunniyah to Siwaak is accomplished by any one of a number of means. So using your plastic toothbrush and stuff like this will give you the reward of having done the Sunniyah to Siwaak, because it reaches the same conclusion of having your mouth being cleaned. So therefore, if a person uses a plastic toothbrush, you will have gotten half the reward of the person who uses an Araak tree toothbrush, or at least an Araak tree miswak. So if you are following along with what I'm saying. So in the event where a person has no Araak tree toothbrush, miswak at least, or a olive tree miswak, you don't have a miswak itself, then and you are using it for the purpose of wudu, then the second best thing is to use your finger. The finger will take precedence over the plastic toothbrush. Why? Because this is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had done. Not to say you couldn't pick up any old piece of stick or something there, or take, uh, some other material and clean the teeth. It could have been done, but instead Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used his finger. Hadrat Ali radiyallahu anhu showed us this by physically using his finger as well. Therefore, we will say we stick to the sunnah as far as possible, and the reward, the greater reward, would be to use the finger. Even though a person may say, but the toothbrush, the plastic one, will give you more cleanliness. But our point here is in following the sunnah as opposed to using our own logic as to what will be better. So, matharatun lil fam wa mardatun lil rab, a means of cleaning the mouth and as a means that is pleasing to Allah. So that is what we want, the thing which is pleasing to Allah. Therefore, we will give precedence to using the finger as opposed to using the plastic toothbrush. But let's say maybe a person got a cut on his finger, or he's, sometimes a person can't use their fingers for whatever reason, so he happens to have a plastic toothbrush and he uses it in this situation, then because of him being unable to use his fingers, he will get that reward for his toothbrush as well. But it will follow in this order. Number one, your proper miswak itself. Number two, your finger. And then number three will be your plastic toothbrush. So your plastic toothbrush will give you the reward of the Sunniyyah to Siwaak, not the Sunnah of the Miswaak. And the finger will give you the reward of the Sunniyyah to Siwaak, and it will give you the Sunnah of the Miswaak in the event when you don't have a Miswaak. But obviously, when you use your Miswaak, you get the full, complete reward by using it in that manner. And Allah knows best. Anyway, so that was the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, that siwak is a means of purifying the mouth and is a means of pleasing Allah. رواه أبو يعلى بإسنادين في أحدهما ابن إسحاق وهو ثقة مدلس ورجال الآخر رجال الصحيح مجموعه الزوائد. The narration is reported by Imam Abu Ya'la with two chains of narration. One of the chains of narration has Ibn Ishaq, the same narrator which we just spoke about earlier, the Mudallis. But as he says, is a thiqa, reliable. But the other chain of narration, all the narrators are authentic and reliable. Ergo, at the end of the day, the hadith is authentic. Okay, next question over here. Another good question. Is it okay to put toothpaste on the miswak and a finger, or does it detract from the reward? We shouldn't do that. In the situation when you are using it for the purpose of the siwak, then a person should abstain from using the toothpastes and stuff like this on it. On your finger, you could do it, but it don't exactly serve any purpose. The plastic bristles is what causes you put some toothpaste on your finger and rub it over your teeth. You're just going to make a flat paste. You're not going to get any bubbles. You're not going to activate the chemicals inside the toothpaste for it to take effect. So rubbing it over your teeth is not going to serve the purpose of you using it. Maybe it will give you a little bit of smell in your mouth, but that's about all. So therefore, using it serves no purpose if you are not using it with a toothbrush itself. So therefore, a person should not use it with a or at least I should say, if a person is using the siwak, don't use toothpaste with it. And if you're using it with your finger, you're not going to serve any purpose using it with toothpaste. So rather, use your siwak. And if you want something to freshen your breath, then you can use your your toothpaste, or you can eat some breath freshener or anything of the sort, but they should not be mixed, the two. Why is this? The reason is the toothpaste is something that if you use it while you are fasting and you swallow any of it, it breaks your fast. But your miswak, a natural tasting miswak, you have nowadays artificially injected flavors into miswak. So you have lemon flavored miswaks, you've got mint flavored miswak, you've got mustard flavored miswak, you've got multiple different things that different companies do, where they take a regular Araak tree miswak and then they have this chemical taste added to it. So you're using this mint flavored miswak, and people tend to go in for these mint flavored ones. So it's like it's got a built-in so to say, toothpaste to it. However, this would break your fast on account of the fact that it is an artificial flavor added to the miswak. So, but when you use your miswak itself, it's got a natural flavor and taste to it. And if that went down your throat, that would not affect your fast. So therefore, it is important that we don't blur the lines between what is allowed and what falls into the realm of makruh and what will just simply straight out break your fast. Sure, you may not be fasting at all times, you may not be using it at the time when you're fasting in any case, but still, let us not, you know, you blur your lines, and then later on down the line you end up having problems. So therefore, if you did use toothpaste on a miswak, it would not be a problem. But when you are making your wudu, you don't use toothpaste in that situation, whether it be on your miswak, whether it be on your finger, whether it be with a toothbrush. In none of these situations do you use toothpaste, because that is not the place where it is to be used. Use it at another time, use it before, use it afterwards. But when we're making wudu, we are doing so following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not to say that there was not other things that people had around at the time for them to be able to clean their teeth with. But the fact is, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't use any of those other herbal type things for teeth cleaning during wudu. So therefore, we will not add something to our wudu which did not come to us from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right. So anyway, we had just done that the chain of narration of this hadith is authentic. ورواه أحمد والنسائي بإسناد صحيح والبخاري تعليقا. So it's reported by Imam Bukhari in a mu'allaq form. Okay, another question to come over here. I heard that the Shafi'is are not to use a miswak while fasting after the time of Zawal. What is the reason for this? Good question. And it's one of the frequently asked questions, or at least it always comes up during the month of Ramadan, which is the Hanafis and the Shafi'is differ on this point, where we as Hanafis, we say that you can use the miswak whole day during during Ramadan. The Shafi'is say not after Zawal. The reason is based on the hadith that the لخلوف فم الصائم أطيب عند الله من ريح المسك, that the khaluf, the smell of the mouth of the fasting person, is أطيب عند الله, is more beautiful in أطيب طيب, it is more fragrant in the sight of Allah من ريح المسك, than the smell of musk. Now Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah and the Shafi'i fuqaha, they say that how will you get the smell in your mouth if you are using the siwak after Zawal? Because obviously early morning you don't have that smell. It's only here after Zawal where, a lengthy period has passed over you since the time that you had eaten. So now that smell starts to come in your mouth. Now if you use the siwak at this time, it will take that smell away. So Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah and the Shawafi', they say you are now depriving yourself of this reward if you were to use the siwak at this time and take that smell away. The smell is beloved unto Allah, but you're removing it. We as Ahnaf, we say no. You will continue to get your full reward from Allah, and you using the siwak at that time will not affect your reward in the least. Why? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used the siwak during Ramadan, and there was no mention of before or after Zawal. As a result, we only do what we saw from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we have no prohibition from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to use it after Zawal. That is why we will continue to use it after Zawal. So we say it does not matter whether you are using it before or after Zawal. It makes absolutely no difference. It does not affect the fact that your breath will be more fragrant in the sight of Allah. It will not change the fact that you get your full reward. Nothing of that sort. You will get everything, and you are still permitted to use the siwak. And Allah knows best. Okay, before the time is starting to run short, so I wanted to just do this extra piece. He says كيفية الاستياك. How do you use the siwak? He said وقد ورد ما يدل على أنه يستاك في الأسنان عرضا وفي اللسان طولا. It's mentioned that when you are using the siwak, you go from side to side, not up and down. When you are cleaning your tongue in your when using your siwak is from the sunnah as well. So when you're cleaning your tongue, you don't go side to side, you go up and down. So he says, Imam Abu Dawud reported in his Marasil من طريق عطاء بلفظ إذا شربتم فاشربوا مصا وإذا استكتم فاستاكوا عرضا وفيه محمد بن خالد القرشي قال ابن قطان. Okay, anyway, he makes mention the narration over here, which is when you drink, then فاشربوا مصا, but this is the point he's bringing out. وإذا استكتم, when you use the miswak, استكتم فاستاكوا, then use your siwak عرضا, side to side. He says there's a bit of a weakness in the chain, but certain ulama say this, but at the end of the day, it's suitable for you to be able to act on this narration over here. That when you are cleaning your teeth, Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, I think he mentions this in his sharh on Sahih Muslim. It's either him or Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani in Fath al-Bari. But my memory, if it serves me correctly, I think it's Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah who makes mention of this, that you clean as well from side to side. But anyway, that's with regards to the narration. If you do clean up and down, it's not a problem, but obviously, when we are talking about the exact method, the proper way, it is to clean from side to side. Okay, here we have Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani make mention هذا وإنما هو في الأسنان أما في اللسان فيستاك طولا كما في حديث أبي موسى في الصحيحين ولفظ أحمد وطرف السواك على لسانه يستن إلى فوق قال الراوي كأنه يستن طولا. He says when you are cleaning your teeth, then you move side to side. As far as your tongue is concerned, then you will clean up and down. This is taken from the hadith of Hazrat Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu, meaning the cleaning of the tongue, not the teeth. In the Sahihain, and the words of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah in his narration, that what happened is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had the tip of the siwak on his tongue, yastannu ila al-fawq, taking from the bottom of the tongue upwards, cleaning up to the top of the tongue. And then the narrator says, كأنه يستن طولا, as though Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was cleaning, vertically and not horizontally. Here he says وينبغي أن يستاك بسواك من أراك ففي التلخيص عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال كنت أجتني لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سواكا من أراك. He says use the Araak tree for your miswak. Imam Ibn Hajar makes mention from Hazrat Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. He said, I used to take the miswak, make the miswak for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, making it from Araak. رواه أبو يعلى الموصلي في مسنده وأخرجه ابن حبان في صحيحه والطبراني أيضا. Okay, moving further. الصحابي قال كنت في الوفد الذين أتوا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فزودنا الأراك نستاك به فقلنا يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عندنا الجريد ولكننا نقبل كرامتك وعطيتك. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اغفر لعبد القيس إذ أسلموا طائعين غير مكرهين إذ قاعد قوم لم يسلموا إلا خزايا موتورين. رواه الطبراني في الكبير وإسناده حسن. Anyway, so before the time runs out, he makes mention here, Imam al-Tabarani rahimahullah makes mention, and it's graded as authentic by Imam Diya al-Maqdisi, as well as mentioned by Imam Ibn Hajar al-Haytami in Majma' al-Zawaid from Abu Khayra al-Sabahi radiyallahu anhu. He said he came with a gathering of Sahaba to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, فَزَوَّدَنَا الْأَرَاكَ نَسْتَاكُ بِهِ, and we were given Araak, this Araak three miswaks out of it for us to use as miswak. So not only was it the miswak of choice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam personally, but it was also the miswak that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to give to the different Sahaba. They came from other places where they had their own trees, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave them all tree, the miswaks from this Araak tree. That is why, like I say, go to any place that sells miswaks, you'll find it will be there a standard one. It's like I say, some people call it Peelu in the, if they packed in the Indo-Pak subcontinent. Others will call it Araak, A-R-A-K. Others, like I say, P-E-E-L-U. They'll spell it as Peelu. But anyway, it's the one and the same thing, just the Urdu name and the Arabic name, but it's the same miswak. It is the most common miswak. Like I say, you also get the olive one, and that's a dark brown, maroon actually, the miswak. The outside bark is that color, the inside bark is a very soft, light yellow type bristle. But anyway, both of these. And one more additional point I should have mentioned, a siwak is to be used both by men and women. There's absolutely, it's not a men only thing, it's something that women will get the full reward of it as much as a man, and she will get the reward of the sunnah as well when she uses the siwak. We see in the event of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passing away, and the one who softened the miswak for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was none other than Hadra Aisha radiyallahu anha. So it's not a male only thing, it is something that women use just as much as men do. So anyway, we will stop on this point, inshallah. We've got time for one more question because the time is running out, but we will end on this point and start next time from this chapter over here. But yeah, okay, question, is it possible to access recordings of past lessons? Yes. On if you go to YouTube and you search for Darul Ilm channel, I think at least that's the name of it, then you'll come to the Darul Ilm channel over there, and all the classes, the Us Sunan classes, the Arabic class, the Riyadh al-Salihin class, the Tafsir al-Qurtubi class, there'll be a playlist for each of them, and you can access them all there. They are posted up daily, immediately after the class. So, you can access them. As far as other classes are concerned that I referenced from Ummah Radio and stuff like that, obviously that's also on YouTube, but on the Ummah Radio channel, a totally different channel altogether. There are a number of recordings of different classes and things over there. So, but yeah, if you're talking about these classes itself, then you just go to YouTube, type in Darul Ilm channel, and yes, that link which was posted over there, the Darul Ilm channel, will take you to the channel itself, and you can see all the various recordings of our previous classes, inshallah. Anyway, so just to summarize and to wrap up, so we learned about the usage of the siwak, and that there is the Sunniyyah to Siwaak, and there is the reward of the miswak itself. We learned about the time when you are to use the miswak, that if you have made your wudu and used it, you don't repeat him again at the time of making your salah. If you have not used it at the time of making your wudu, then you use it at the time of your salah. Or if you use it during your wudu and a lengthy period of time has passed and now it comes to another salah and you haven't repeated your or refreshed your wudu, then in that case, what I had said from my side is that yes, in this situation here too, you will use the siwak once more to clean and purify your mouth, because by you purifying your mouth, it will be a purifier for your mouth. It will be following the sunnah, and it will be a means of gaining the pleasure of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala as well. And Allah knows best. And as our time is almost just about up, we will then stop on this point here, inshallah ta'ala, until next week, Monday, when we continue on with our tafsir class. But that being said, we end for tonight. Until next time, وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.